Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 17 of my C++ video tutorial series. We're getting near the end of covering the core language, so very soon we'll be covering GUI development and all the other things you guys have been requesting, but today I wanted to completely finish covering sequential containers. And a sequential container is, you've already used vectors, that's one of them. But basically, they are exactly what they sound like. They contain data that is stored in order. And I'm going to cover the last three, which are Deques, lists, and forward lists. And like always, all of the code is available in the description. And if you haven't watched any of the previous tutorials, you should. Otherwise, you will be confused. And I have a lot to do. So let's get into it. Alright, so I'm just going to keep this very simple. I'm going to go through, and like I said, we're going to cover Deques, lists, and forward lists. You're going to need to include these guys. And I'm just going to come in here. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be retrieving information based off of whether it is even or not. So I'm going to come in here and put this in here. There's the reference operator and value, and all it's going to do is return either true or false based off of if a value is even or not. Okay, you've seen this before, and there we are. All right, now I'm going to use that in a little bit. What I want to do right now is to cover Deques. Now, a Deque is just a dynamic array, just like a vector, except it allows for insertion or deletion from the front as well as the back. And how you define them is you would just go in and go Deque, and whatever your data type is that you want to store inside of it. And then I'm just going to call this Deque1, and I'll show you a whole bunch of different ways. What we can do here is we can add to the front or the back, like I said. So we're going to be able to go Deque1. Normally with vectors, you'd only be able to do a push back, and we can also do that. So push back, and let's say we want to put a 5 on there. But with a Deque, you're also going to be able to push front. So we can change this to front, and then we can change this to 1. We're going to be able to do a whole bunch of other different things. We can add values also, so we can go Deque1 and assign, and then what we're going to do is inside of curly brackets, let's say we want to do 11 and 12. We could do this. And why don't we go and print all this information out just so we can see how things are changing. And how we can do that is we can just do a for loop, and we're working with integers, and that of course is a temporary holding cell for each individual integer that is stored inside of this Deque, and then we can come in and print out each of those on its own separate line. And like I said, I'm just doing this just so you can see how the code that I'm writing here is changing the Deque. And we ran that, and you can see 11 and 12 pop up right there. And you may say, well, where did 1 and 5 go? Well, assign actually overwrites them. So let's go and get rid of assign, or we could put assign first instead. So let's go and do that just so you can see what that looks like. So we'll throw a sign in there, save that, and now you can see that it works more like what you would think. So if you want to not overwrite your data, do assign first rather than doing it last. And what else are we going to do? We're also going to be able to get the size of, or the number of items that are stored inside of our Deque. And so let's just go size, print that out. And how you do that is just Deque1 followed by size, just like we did with vectors previously. And there you'll see how that pops up, size 4 right there. And the reason why size 4 comes first is this is where we're printing out the information about the Deque itself. We are going to be able, this isn't true for all of these different containers, but we can actually access by index with Deques. So, and whenever we get to the other ones in which you cannot do that, well, you can always get the index. It's just sometimes you can't do it directly like you can see we're able to do here with this guy. And we're also going to be able to access index using at as well. So let's just come in here and do this. And all we would do is change that into at followed by whatever the index is that we want to work with. And there you can see they print it out as well. In this situation, it would be 1 and 11. We're also going to be able to add a value at a specific index if you use an iterator. And how you create an iterator to use with a Deque is you just come in and go Deque and define the type of Deque you want to work with. And then you're going to go iterator and let's just call this it is equal to dec, and then you're going to have to define where you want it to start at. So we can say begin, and then let's say we wanted to go 1 from the beginning, and there we are. And that's going to give us our iterator. And then we could come in and insert a value at that specific point. So we'll go insert, and then we'll go dec1 end. We're going to be able to use begin and end also with this. Or you know what? I'm not going to do that though. I'm going to do it. I'll show you that in a second. So what we're going to do is go iterator, which is going to be to the second place within our dec, and we want to put a 3 inside of there. And whenever we do that, you're going to see that yes, indeed, the 3 was inserted in the second place using the iterator. All right. And I said I wanted to show you something to do with end. How about we add multiple different values using a array? So I'm going to create an array here, and let's say we want to add 5 values inside of it, and let's just go and get 5 random values, 9 and how about 10, and closing bracket. Okay, so we have defined our array, and then what we want to do is we want to insert at the very end of our dec. So we can just go directly, we don't have to create the iterator here, we just go dec1 and end, and then what we want to add in here, so temp r, and then we're going to have to define how many of the indexes in the array we want to go, and let's say we want to add all of them, so we'll put 5 inside of there, and you will see that it went and added 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 to the end of the dec that we already created. All right, so let's see what else we got. We're also going to be able to erase at a specific index, so let's say we wanted to get rid of this 10 right here. We could just go dec1 and erase and dec1 end, and there we are. And what else can we do? We can also erase, let's say we want to erase a couple elements. We can go and call erase again and say that we want to start at the very beginning of our dec, and then we want to go 2 indexes in. Again, we'll just go begin, and then we'll just add directly inside of there 2, and then we'll get rid of that value as well, those first 2 values inside of the dec. And we could also pop off a value, so we go dec1 and pop front, and that guy will be gone. We could also pop last, but it's not called last, it's called back. So just throw that there and then change front to back, and I'll run that here in a second. We're also going to be able to let's go and create another dec. I'll show you another different way to create them. So we can go dec, and we'll just keep it as an integer again. We'll call it dec2. And let's say we want to have a whole bunch of different values. I'm just going to have 2 values to be created that are going to both have the value of 50. We can throw those in there. We could then swap values that are inside of dec. So we can go dec1 and swap with our dec that we just created, so you'll be able to see what that looks like. And of course we can delete all values just by going dec1 and clear, and that will delete everything in all of them. All right, and let's go and get rid of that. You can of course run that on your own to see that it's deleted, but you can see that we went and switched and put the 50 inside of there. And also if we come in and get rid of that one and that one, you're going to see that we popped the front and the back off. See, the 9's gone. Alrighty, so there is a rundown of just about everything you can do with decs. And now I'm going to take a look at lists. Okay, so lists are the most efficient at inserting, moving, and extracting elements of all of the different sequential containers we've covered so far. You're going to see another one that's even more efficient called forward list right after this. However, they lack the ability to directly access elements. However, I'm going to show you a trick how to be able to access them. So let's just come in here and let's start creating some stuff. So let's say I want to create an array that is going to have 5 values inside of it. And I'll just 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, just to keep it nice and simple. And then I'm going to be adding these to a list. And there's a list, and let's just keep it simple and have it be a regular old int. and let's just call it list 1. And I want to add all the values from that array into our list, and we could just use insert to do that. And we have to define where we want them to go. So I'm going to go list begin, and then what are we going to be adding? The array, and then how many values from the array are we going to be adding? We're going to add all of them, which is going to be 5. I can change this to list, and then I'll be able to use that. And you can see if I run this, everything works perfectly. We're also going to be able to use assign just like we did before. So let's go assign, and we can throw in our curly brackets and say 10, 20, and 30. There's probably a much easier way than creating an array and doing all this nonsense. So there's assign if you'd like to use assign. And we can also push values on the front as well as the back, just like we did previously with Deques. So push and back, and let's say we want to put like a 5 inside of there, and then we can use push front to push a value onto the front of the guy, of course. So there's front, and then there's 1. We're going to be able to get sizes, so just go and output our size for our list. And of course, that's just going to be list 1 and size, just like you probably would have guessed. And there that is. So we can run this just to see that it's working. Now, like I said, we're not going to be able to access. Here, I'll prove it to you. Let's go and try to access a list index directly, and you'll see that we cannot do so. So let's say we just want to get the first element inside of it, and you're going to see that this throws an error, and say error, and it says does not provide a subscript operator. Okay, so you can't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a trick so that you know how to access those values. And you're going to use an iterator to do it. So let's go and create that for the exact same setup as our list that we're working with. And then we will create an iterator, if I can spell iterator right. And I'll call this IT2 just so you'll be able to run all the code on my website all in one place without having all kinds of problems. So we're going to define, we want that set for the beginning of our list. And then what you do is you use advance to cycle forward through your list. So like that, and we'll say we want to go in 1 spot. And now what we'll be able to do is go and print out the second index inside of our list. Okay, so it's a little bit more roundabout. I mean, you have to create the iterator, but after that, everything's perfectly fine. Oh, get rid of that. There we go, got rid of it. All right, and now we'll just be able to come in and star IT2 to get our value that's inside of it. And there you go, piece of cake. And now you're able to access the second index, which is actually a 1. All right, so there's a workaround for getting over the one problem that we really have with lists. Then we're going to go and insert at a specific index, and I'm going to use the iterator once again. So I'm going to go list 1 and just point at the beginning of our list. And now I'm going to be able to insert specifically at that point. So we go list 1 and insert, and just use the iterator we just created and say we want to put a value of 8 there. We can do so. We're also going to be able to erase at a specific index. So we'll say something like with list 1 and erase, and list 1 begin, just to keep that nice and easy. And there it is, it's gone. We're also going to be able to, let's say we want to erase a whole bunch of different items. Well, I'm going to use my iterator again, and I'm going to go list 1 and begin, and then we can go standard list int, create another iterator and call it iterator 3, and list 1 begin once again. And then we're going to use advance again. So just standard advance and use iterator 3 to advance 2 spaces forward. So this guy's going to point at the beginning, and this guy's going to point 2 spaces in, and then we can call erase using both of those iterators. So it's sort of a weird way to work your way through here, but it works pretty well. And it'll be useful to go in there. You can do that for homework. You can go and maybe create new ways to erase values and so forth and so on. We're of course going to be able to pop values off of here. So list 1 once again, and pop front, and if you can pop front, you're gonna probably be able to pop back as well. So let's just do pop back, and you can see our list just keeps getting shorter and shorter. We're going to also be able to, let's come in here first and let's create another list. So we'll call this array 2, and we'll have 6 values inside of it, and we'll go 10 and 9 and 8 and 7, and let's throw 2 6s inside here just so I can show you how to eliminate any values that are not unique, and create a list of integers, and we will call this list2. And then I can go and insert the array values inside of here. So list2, insert, and we'll just go list2 beginning, and then the array values that we want to pour inside of there. So array2 and array2 plus 5, or actually that's 6, right? Yeah, 6. And then we can also go and print all of these out. I'm going to go and steal this guy right here just so we can have some division between these two values. So I'm going to go like this, and then this is just going to be an extra new line, so we'll be able to see where the different lists are being printed out. And I will print out list 1. Yeah, let's just change this. Well, yeah, we'll print out list 1 first, and then we'll print out list 2. How about that? Sounds good. We can go and run it, and you're going to see now they're divided up and how they are all listed out there with all the different values. Now, if we would like to come in here and sort, we're going to sort just list 2. This is all built into our list, and you can see that it went and sorted that all nicely for us. We're also going to be able to reverse them. So list 2 and reverse, and we can also get just the unique values, which is going to get rid of that extra 6 that's inside of there. So we can use another option. You can see this 6 is gone, and now the values are in reverse. We can also remove a value. So let's say we want to remove all 6s across the board. We can do that. This isn't the 6th index. This is the value of 6. And there that is. We're also going to be able to remove if a condition is true. Remember, we created this condition up here, is even. So if it's even, we are going to remove it. So I'm going to go list 2, and you use remove underscore if. So it's going to remove all the even values. And if we run it again, you're going to see all the even values are gone. And we can also merge our list. So let's say we want to get list 1 and we want to merge it with the values in list 2. There that goes. And I think that's just about everything you can do with a list. And there you can see now we only have one list. So there you go. There is basically every single thing you can do with lists inside of C++. And now I'm going to show you a slightly different list, which is called a forward list. Okay, so a forward list is just like a list, but each list item only has a link to the next item in the list and not to the item that precedes it. All right, so we can always move forward, but we cannot move backwards. And it's the most efficient of the different sequential containers that we have, but it has limits, but we can work around them. Okay, so let's go and create one. So I'm going to go forward underscore list and integer, and I'm just going to call this fl1, and we can assign values just like we did previously. So we can just come in. Remember, assign is going to overwrite anything that's already there, so just throw some values inside of there, and there we go. We're going to be able to push a value onto the front but not push onto the back. We're going to be able to pop a value just by going pop front, but again, we're not going to be able to pop from the back, so we'll just go like that, and there we are. We can go and get a value, so off of the front of this guy. So let's just mark this as front, and how we do it is we go to fl1 and front, and that'll get us our value. Let's go move this up. Of course, we need to include forward list just like we did right there. We can also get an iterator, so just like we did with all the other ones. So we'll go standard and forward list and define the type that we are going to be iterating over, and iterator, and I'll call this it4, and we'll point it at the beginning of our forward list. All right, and we're going to be using forward list down here, so I'll just throw that there. What other things can we do? We can run that just to see how it's working. Say 2, 3, 4. We went and popped the front value off of there. Say pop front. That's what the pop front did. We're going to be able to insert at a specific element. Let's just go it4 and fl1 dot insert, and we'll say after, and we'll pass it4 inside of there. Then the iterator is just going to be reassigned after the value has been inserted. That's what we're doing. Let's say the value we want to insert is the value of 5, and you can see the 5 was inserted at the very beginning of that. We can also come in and delete a value. So let's say that we wanted to delete the 5 that we just put inside of there. We just call erase, and we'll call erase after. Again, wherever the iterator is, and we are specifically looking for the 5 inside of there. Whoops. Actually, this is the, I'm going to point at the very beginning if I want to get rid of the 5. And there we are. And now you can see the 5 is gone. Let's say we want to place a value in our first position. We can go in place, front, and let's say we want to throw a 6 inside of there. Let's go. That might cause some confusion. Let's go and throw a new line inside of here just so you can see, because the 6 is up there at the very top. And we run it again. Now you can see the 6 is right there. We'd also be able to remove a value. This is a value removal. This isn't an index removal. So let's say we want to remove all the 6s. They are gone now. You can remove if a condition is true. So let's show you just like I did with list previously. Let's say I want to remove if, and we have a value that is even. We can do it just like we did with the list, which is awesome. Let's go and create another forward list here to show you how you can interact with the different lists. So I'll create this, and then we'll call this forward list 2. And then we can go and assign a whole bunch of values all in a row. So we'll go assign and 9, 8, just like we did previously. I think that's exactly what I did previously. And I'll work with those in the same way. So let's say we want to get rid of unique values, or only keep unique values, I guess I should say. And we'll just go and cycle through so you can see the changes in both of the list items. So change that to 2, and there we are, 9 8s, and you can see that the 6 has been removed. We're also going to be able to sort said values. So sort those guys, and super easy. We will also be able to, let's just replace sort with reverse, and there they are. And what else do we want to do? We can also merge our lists. So there we go, FL2. And now they are merged into one. And of course, finally, we can clear our lists. So FL1 and clear. And there you go, guys. That is just about everything you can do with sequential containers inside of C++. In the next tutorial, I'm going to cover associative containers. I'm going to try and cover them all in one video, and then clean up all the other random things I haven't covered in the core C++ language, and then we will move into GUI development and all the other things you guys have been asking for. So like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.